Normalize the signal and you're banging on Freon. Paleolithic Eon. Put the fake goatee on, and it booms as cool as sugar-free just. Hey, Boogie 2988. Apparently your name is not Francis. I did see your table flipping independent of your recent video. Interesting to see the link there. I'm still drinking some Christmas wine. You can tell it's good because they don't even put the year on here. Let's get right into it, eh? I took some notes. I had a lot of thoughts watching your video. Good video. It's good to see somebody explore something who doesn't have a strong opinion, or rather, a strong opinion both ways. We need to accept the complexity of the world and deal with the cognitive dissonance, and we really need to entertain these multiple perspectives in our heads so as to have a better chance at empathy, understanding, communication, yada yada yada. Sugar-free jazz. My notes are a little bit spotty as my pen was failing, but yeah, you were talking about YouTube. So this is an old school response video. I've been inactive kind of for most of the last 10 years, but I'm an old school YouTuber and I lament the loss of the good old days. We now bow to our Google corporate overlords, and I've never really had profit motive. I have motive. Trust me, I have motive now, but I am now ineligible for the partnership program that they offered me 7 years ago or something, 8 years ago. I got an email or something, and I didn't bite on it then. I had higher priorities. I still have higher priorities. You know, eating is a higher priority. But I wanted to work through some of this stuff. A lot of your thoughts were good, but there's some gaps in your knowledge that I'd like to help with. Mainly alternatives to YouTube. There certainly are many. I'm going to point to one later on in the video, and anybody who wants to join me over there is welcome. I have carefully rebranded my channel as WebDruid. I wanted Druid or the Druid, but I was trying to do a cross-platform search to find something that I could use on multiple social networks, and WebDruid seemed to be the way I should go. Because I ran across a couple of Druids. There's a guy writing a comic about somebody named the Druid. I don't know much beyond that. And there's somebody in Silicon Valley who's Silicon, who calls himself the Druid, but he just, you know, talks about some tech stuff or something and isn't that social or whatever. So yeah, YouTube is not the only alternative, and a problem I have with YouTube is that I feel like they are targeting the lowest common denominator, which is they want mass views for ad revenue. And you'll even notice, since you posted your video, that they've made changes that kind of screw over the little user. People trying to, you know, maybe get into this. Man, it is not like when I started. When I started, you could drop a video and almost immediately get attention. people commenting, people viewing, because there just wasn't enough content around, and people searching and stuff could find you quickly. Now there's just this giga Googleplex of data out there, and people continuously uploading. I'm sorry, again, Christmas alcohol. So the problem is that YouTube more and more is trying to get kind of the mainstream appeal, specifically because they're more interested in their advertisers than their users. Their advertisers are where they get their monies, and they throw some change to successful content creators. And you even said in your video, if it's good, and I don't think that should be the bar. I mean, do you really want only people who are successful and who can leverage their time in this way to be users? The name is YouTube, and the ideal that was set forth at the beginning was that it was accessible to all, a very American ideal, that all you need is a camera, an internet connection, and you can start putting stuff up here. In fact, I posted my first 2 videos before I had a camera, before I had a good digital camera that would that I could use to upload. I took some just footage I had on my computer, just some digital video, and I recorded audio and overlaid it. And originally, well, at least for a while, originally they were public videos, but once the person I was trying to reach with those videos saw them, I made them private, and they were private for a long time. And is that what we want? That you already need a foot in the door to be able to use this site and be successful, to even consider it? It once was a very equanimous, equitanstable website where everybody could just jump in and get going, even if they were just sharing with their friends, whatever. But do we really only want the best? We want all voices. At one point, this was a global conversation that anybody could join by posting a video, even in response to a specific video like I'm pretending to do here. And heck, if you like this response, you could put a link in your description if you wanted. I certainly am going to link your video in my description, and if you want to make a response to this specifically, I will also link that one so that people can follow the conversation like they once were able to. And I loved the fact that you could speak directly to somebody who is posting videos that you admired, and possibly participate in this global conversation. You kind of focused on comedy, and you said if it's good, but really that threshold is slipping away from us. We're approaching the point where it needs to be the best to compete, to get attention. And if I certainly have noticed in the past 10 years, certainly, but more so in the past 5 years, the various social medias are converging, where suddenly Twitter takes pictures and videos, and Instagram allows videos, and Facebook allows videos, and so there's a good chance that these corporations, these large corporations, are watching what each other is doing, and there's a good chance that YouTube may move towards the Facebook model in the future, where they're using algorithms. I mean, they're already using algorithms to promote videos that they think specific users will want to see. This concerns me because it divides us. It separates us into echo chambers where we're not seeing other viewpoints. We're not exposed to diversity. Even if you go to Google, you can sit down. 3 different people with different political persuasions can sit down and search for the same word, and they'll get vastly different results that are tailored towards what Google thinks is your own proclivities. And of course, Google owns YouTube now. Since their purchase, they've integrated Google Plus into how, the background of how YouTube works. Anyways, worried about all that. You talked about self-control, and that's needed in society in general. But if you truly want edgy comedy, as you talked about, certainly Carlin comes to mind as one of the greats that was edgy comedy, thought-provoking. It blew my mind, really, that he was a comedian in a way, because a lot of what he said was observational. The way he said it was humorous, but he was a philosopher. He was straight up a modern-day philosopher that was open-eyed, aware of our society and the complexity of what was occurring and the machinations behind the scenes of why things were occurring. And through simply talking about this and pointing it out, I mean, his 7 words you can't say that on TV, any of his comedy that you look at is edgy, observational philosophy. That is, his perspective is humorous, but a large part of that is just the kind of light bulb awareness. His viewpoint allows us to see things in a different way. And I'm really worried that in the aftermath of Logan Paul and others, I mean, it didn't start with him. There certainly was a bunch of people that got in trouble for borderline harassment, making prank videos where they go out into public, have somebody else follow them with a camera, and harass people on the street. And there's a fine line between just communication and harassment, but that line exists, and it's something that we each, as a actor on the world stage, needs to be aware of. And certainly for Logan Paul to go over to Japan and both express awareness of the importance of respect, but also completely dismiss it in his videos is pretty appalling, and it's arguably an end result of this constant strive people have for number of views, retention, interaction. Yeah. I'm worried about all that, and I'm worried about the private corporations' profit motives. It's actually law that if you're a publicly traded, public stock options company, you have to set your shareholders' interests, that is profit motive, as one of your highest priorities. And that turns these private companies into greed machines I call them greed machines because, the greed comes from this bottom line profit motive that this needs to be the primary driving thing. They can't be trying to better the world or improve their users' lives, because first and foremost they have to think of their shareholders. And I call them machines because corporations function on interchangeable parts. They can replace their CEO. They can replace all of their employees. They can close their warehouse and open a new one. They can, and in fact, we're now in a world where YouTube, one of the largest providers of content, produces very little of its own content. And this can be furthered, Uber, the largest transportation provider, does not have its own transportation. It does not own cars. And Amazon and also Alibaba out east, these are huge warehouse distributors that don't produce their own goods. And this can be seen across the board, that these are companies that are organizing and providing, but they aren't producing. And all that kind of worries me, these empty greed machines. In moving forward, I'm just worried that it's going to get worse and worse, because we've already seen how Facebook is implementing changes to their algorithm that suppress natural outreach, so that if you're a Facebook user, you cannot, even your friends that you know in real life, perhaps have known since high school or before, aren't seeing your posts, or are seeing a small fraction of your posts, because Facebook drives your news feed based on AdSense and ad revenues and their own priorities for how to share info. Reporting, preaching, joking. I think that's from something you said. And these are a danger, with our president attacking the news media. And when he started saying fake news, I believe it was during, the heyday of the Russian scandals, with Facebook sharing fake news stories, and now of course he's attacking well-established and reputable news organizations with this claim of fake news. And we've seen this before. If you go to fake news, what is it on Wikipedia? The Lügenpresse. This was the start of Nazi Germany. Was lying press. All right. If you Lügenpresse, if you type in lying press to Wikipedia, you get the entry for Lügenpresse, which the press of lies, which was how Hitler. It was the phrase Hitler used to attack the newspapers of the time, and to undermine them and fight against them, and to call everything into question. And we're going through the same stuff with our own president here in America. And free reporting. If you take Philip DeFranco as an example, and he, is he a real reporter? For me, he's a curator, and he's a nexus point because he draws in information and shares it. It's only slightly filtered through his perspective. He tries to keep it clear what his opinions are after he shares the information, and then routinely he asks for people's perspective on the story. And of course, this can be seen as a ploy, because the more comments you get, the more likes you get, the more interactive your channel is, the more it's boosted, the more likely you'll end up on trending, all of that stuff. But he's, in my mind, he's a good guy, and he's providing a valuable service, which is bringing a lot of disparate news stories, especially stories about YouTube and YouTubers that would, will not make it into the mainstream media because we're in our own little bubble here, and the outside only cares if you get to the point of like the Logan Paul controversy, and that that resulted in some of my high school friends saying, I don't know who Logan Paul is, but I'm glad I don't know who Logan Paul is. And, I can't argue with that, but I know who Logan Paul is. But preaching, you mentioned preaching. What are you preaching? If it's religion or philosophy, you're at risk of being labeled a propagator of hate speech, or even just being identified by an artificial intelligence as dangerous content or whatever, and being suppressed. And as far as jokes go, again, I would say, do you need to be good? What constitutes a joke? Isn't it intent? And if I say I'm trying to make a joke, does it matter if I'm successful? Should there be a platform where anyone can attempt to make jokes? Isn't the attempt how you get response? And isn't the response how you critically evaluate yourself in the hopes of improving, changing, bettering yourself, and eventually becoming a good comedian? A lot of people who are successful first failed over and over again. So yeah, there's a difference between being harmful and unpopular. And I think while harmful content should be watched out for and identified, unpopular content, I don't know. I liked the fact that YouTube is a place where you can type in anything and find somebody sitting in front of a camera and talking about that thing. Hopefully find someone as passionate about that thing as you are. And when you're talking about weird corner cases of society, it's such a relief to find somebody as passionate as you are, so that you don't feel like a freak, so that you don't feel like a complete outsider, like you're alone in the world. And just as an example, I've got these long fingernails, and I did this originally for a Halloween costume. I grew them for a month, the month of October. This was probably perhaps 12 years ago. And during that month, I got used to them, and I was cutting them to a point for this costume, and I learned something that I didn't know since childhood, at least for myself, is that when I tended to rip my nails or break them, when I caught them on things, retracting my hand. Not like trying to grab things or trying to do things as much as I thought, but when I was pulling my hand back, the edge of a car or clothing, whatever, I would snag the corner on something, and then that would cause me to peel them. That would sometimes cause them to go to rip too low, causing pain and discomfort for a little while. Anyways, so I grew them out, and they're just functional for me. They provide a different interface for the world. They're a little bit punk. They're countercultural. They're a little bit punk. They're a little bit goth. They're a little bit feminine. They're a little bit scary, spoopy, if you will. And so I decided to just continue the trend. And now I have some nail fetishist viewers on my YouTube channel, which kind of weirds me out. I've gotten a few comments like, "Oh, I wish you could just scratch my back," or "I wish you could rub your fingernails through my beard," or I wish I could lick your finger. All that stuff really weirds me out, because for me, they're not a fetish. They're just a natural extension of what my body does anyway. I shoot protein from my fingertips. But anyways, but I also realized that other than my discomfort, those viewers aren't harming anyone. They're not harming me. And I've, politely requested at times that people don't try to meet me if their goal is like some sexual fantasy with my nails. I'm not interested in that stuff. But at the same time, if somebody's at home in their room, it doesn't matter to me so much how they're using my video. And in a way, isn't this an outlet that harms no one? Anyways, that total aside. But my point is that they're not popular. But should these nails be outlawed? Should they not be allowed on? I mean, it's ridiculous area to explore, because this. There's nothing in the terms and conditions of YouTube. There's stuff against bodily harm and human fecal matter and certain body parts. I find the separation between male nipples and female nipples odd. Why is it that half of us in the world can put our nipples on video just fine and the other half cannot? Violations, demonetization, risk of losing your account, all that stuff. So there's a risk of all this becoming very antiseptic, to the extent that we just live in these bubbles where we're not exposed to diversity, we're not exposed to things we're not expecting. And anyways, if you're a supporter of freedom of speech and freedom of expression through art, YouTube was a great place to explore those things, and it's becoming harder and harder to do that. Certainly if you want to try and support yourself or make money, it's becoming harder and harder to do that on YouTube. Even just last night, they changed the thresholds needed to get into the partnership program, and I was entertaining the idea. And with the new watch requirements, I'm struggling to get views right now. I have a few loyal people who are quietly watching my videos, and some of them have taken vows of they have thresholds where they don't, some of them don't want to enter the comments section, and some of them don't use the like button. But they may be people who watch my videos multiple times, or who stick through to the end, unlike a lot of people who will click away because of all of the other potential things to click on, and the boredom that their mind provides them while they're trying to wait for someone to finish their thought process. So the main thing I wanted to do, though, is point out that there are alternatives. If you want to earn money, there's of course Patreon, which is kind of a support system. Philip DeFranco just pointed out another one called, I don't know, Brave, I think it was. It had a lion icon. But the main one I want to point to is minds.com, minds.com, and I am WebDruid there as I am WebDruid here, even if I do prefer the Druid, or Druid, or Druiderino, whatever. But minds.com is an alternative, but it doesn't have as many viewers. It itself is its own bubble to some extent, and the people who have already fled there are ones who were already fed up with YouTube, or who wanted to explore the gray areas that are the terms and conditions of YouTube's use. So, there are people over there kind of flirting the edges of acceptability, but Minds already is providing better tools for its users to support each other directly financially, and I'm intending at some point to open myself up to that if it takes off, so that people who want to support me directly can. And but the flaw that minds.com has at this point is its smaller user base. And so if you want outreach, if you want to find people who maybe do have a different mind than you, or the mainstream, or all those teenagers out there, they aren't necessarily aware of Minds yet, much like you're not aware of Minds yet, it seems. And so my strategy now, and potentially for years, is to do a parallel upload to YouTube and Minds. And I'm not necessarily going to provide identical content to both, but what I want to do is, for the most part, if I'm speaking about important issues, I'm going to upload them both places. And that accomplishes a lot of things. YouTube can be the outreach and can provide a kind of funnel over to Minds to bring people's attentions of it. Certainly people who use the same format for their descriptions in every video can set up, their link to their other channel on this other platform as the first thing you see in every video, so that every video you post on YouTube can potentially pull people over to Minds. Another thing it accomplishes is this parallel stream will allow us to cross-compare what videos are doing better on one platform versus the other, what videos are being pulled from YouTube, because they will probably still be up on Minds. What videos get more traction on one from the other, and there may be some content that I post that I've already found this, that when I'm trying to talk to my existing YouTube user base, I might as well post that just on YouTube. And maybe people who are specifically doing controversial things will want to put those only on Minds. And of course, a lot of people have moved to Minds to post their content and have abandoned YouTube for various reasons. Some of those are people who had direct dealings with YouTube. And, so kind of have a personal vendetta. For me, I know it's a corporation, and so I'm not dealing with it like it's an individual. They shift over time, but they're also very interested in their own status quo and, keeping themselves solvent. And for that reason, there may be a point that they begin suppressing people who talk about other channels and other options. I can certainly imagine a time when these various channels may begin using each other's names as a keyword to search for to suppress content. Where if I'm posting a video talking about YouTube if I'm posting a video on YouTube talking about another channel that allows videos, Facebook, for example, now allows videos, in a positive light, that YouTube might choose to start suppressing those videos about Facebook so that they're less likely to lose people through those links and stuff. And, for us to be prepared for this coming battle between social media giants, we need to think through these things even before they do, or at least before they start implementing them. Another concern I have is when are they going to implement speech to text and start converting the actual audio content of our videos into searchable script that can be better analyzed by their AI bots? Because at that point, we're dealing with the pretty serious psychological, social manipulation of Skynet matrix proportions. So, anyways, I don't know. Some thoughts from the Druid. Nice to meet you, Boogie Francis, with some numbers. And if this inspires thoughts, I'd enjoy hearing them. If you want to send me a link to your video or whatever, I certainly will watch it, and maybe I can answer some questions or do a more focused, briefer video that would codify some of these. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Oh, I'm also starting a cult. So, whatever. Proselytization, recruitment, brainwashing. White Zinfandel. And, are you trying to get on video? You're not supposed to be on video. Still dealing with your lawyers. Okay. Yeah, stack wax, lie like a placemat. Won't lap, but help you with the automat. As clear and clean as. Insert catchphrase here.